I'm Juan Makes, and today I'm going to show you how I painted my large Venom statue. Now this statue is a really big one, and I'm not going to hold your hand on this one. It took like 3 days to print on multiple printers, and it was a ton of pieces. But after gluing everything together, getting all the seams sorted out, I decided it was time for paint, and I figured I'd show you guys how I did it. So I started out with the base, and I'm just adding kind of a flat gray. I'm gonna go back in and just kind of keep touching things up. You'll see me going back and forth with colors over lots of different areas, but I started with the base, and then I figured it was a good time to add some of this ultra flat black. I like to do a lot of my base coating, especially on larger stuff with just these rattle cans. It's just a great starting point, and I can still use a good 2K automotive grade clear coat over the top of these once they've had time to fully cure. Now, most of the time, these paint processes usually take between 3 and 5 days, depending on kind of what I'm doing and how much detail I'm actually putting into some of these. Now, to be fair, this one isn't overly complicated. It's mostly black and white, some red, and some highlighting, and so on and so forth, but you'll kind of see how that goes along. Now, I decided to add some color into some other areas here, but for the most part, I'm basically just base coating everything with black. I just kind of stuck him in here so that I could paint the top of his head and the upper part and get into some of these cavities and areas like under his arms that are really hard to see. Now, again, you're going to take a lot of time with stuff like this, and it's not going to go as fast as it looks in the video. These take hours and hours to kind of do, but now you're going to see me do a technique that I do all the time with a lot of stuff, and this is a black wash. Again, very simple. I'm just mixing some acrylic paint, black acrylic paint. This is just the cheap apple barrel stuff you get from Walmart for like $1. And I'm just mixing this in with water. So in the cup there, I have about 75% water, 25% paint. I mix it up really, really well, and then I brush it all over the entire thing. And there's multiple ways to kind of go about this, but I like to brush it in, leave it on for a few minutes, come back and kind of wipe things down. But most of the time I will spritz water over the top of this, or I'll even use rubbing alcohol sometimes, isopropyl alcohol. And what that causes is kind of a wrinkled effect with this paint and gives it more of a realistic rock or textured look. It's just something I like to do to stuff to kind of make it look a little bit weathered, and it's really honestly an easy process. Now you're going to see me go along with a lot of different mediums, again, like I always do. I started out with these paint pens thinking this might be the faster method, but truth be told, I ended up coming back in and redoing pretty much all of this with an airbrush and some white primer. The reason I went with the primer was because I just love the way that it gave kind of a soft white look over the black, and then I came back in and touched it up with the black, and then obviously the clear coat's going to make most of this all kind of blend together, which is great. Now you'll see me kind of going into some of these weird areas and stuff. You want to make sure you put something down soft so that when you're rotating your piece all over the place, you're not scratching it up. Even with good paint on top of stuff, you can easily scratch these things up. I mean, you're kind of tossing it around and moving it into ways, especially with these bigger pieces like this. Now, had these been smaller pieces, I wouldn't have to worry about this near as much, but because of how large this print ended up being, I think somewhere right around like 36 inches, I believe, or 32 inches, something of that nature. But yeah, this was done over a couple of days, and right now I'm just, again, working all over the white, kind of filling in the outline of what I wanted to do here before I realized I'm just going to switch over to my airbrush. Again, you'll notice with a lot of my videos, I don't like to mask stuff off. I feel like it's super time consuming, and as long as you're careful and use good pressure, a lower pressure especially, you're not going to have a ton of overspray with stuff. So I use a kind of finer point airbrush. I believe the needle and tip in this airbrush that I'm currently using is a 0.2 millimeter, which is pretty fine point. I also take the cap off, which gives me an even finer point with a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. So you'll see me kind of fill some of these areas in. Again, I'm not being overly cautious with putting the paint down because I know I'm going to come back in with some black and kind of touch things up. So I'm just going to shut up and let you guys watch this part because it's kind of repetitive and it won't last super long. Now I did go up here on the eyes and kind of start filling those in a little bit at a time. And as I was looking at reference photos, I realized the gums along the side had some red to them, and also that the eyes weren't solid white. They actually have kind of a dirty black look to the edges of them. And again, this was just from different reference photos I looked at. The actual original color for Venom was kind of a blue color, so I didn't really want to go that route. I like the traditional black and white that I think most people are really familiar with for this character. So I just kind of went back in and touched up all the white. And once I felt comfortable with that, I came in with the black, kind of shadowed and shaded everything back in, and just kind of touched up and crisped up all the lines. Again, I don't love to tape things off. A lot of people would tape these and get really clean, crisp lines, and that's totally okay if that's your style. It's just not the style that I like to do. So you'll see me kind of move around the shop a little bit. I decided to go get the base and bring it over here. Now, as I was looking at this, I thought to myself, what seems cool in this area? And the only thing I could think of was to kind of go with a toxic theme. You know, something to kind of offset the black and the white, because there's a lot of shadows, a lot of dark areas with this. He's standing on a piece of broken up concrete. And to me, it just seemed like it would make more sense if it had a little bit of color. So I went around and shadowed everything in like I would normally do, and I double checked everything to make sure against my reference photos that I was feeling comfortable with the way things were. And I decided to grab some of this metallic bronze paint, and I just started dry brushing some of the bronze onto some of the base here. I went with a bronze on one coat and a little bit of silver on another, just to kind of offset the color a little bit. But I was really loving this bronze. I used just a cheap large makeup brush from the dollar store. These work really good for dry brushing. You want to just make sure that you get paint on the brush. You're kind of loading it up and then brushing most of the paint off to where it's only leaving stuff on some of the high points. And then I came back again with a little bit more black, touched a few more things up. And then I'm going to come back in here with my Tesseract green. Now this green is unbelievably vibrant over a white base coat, and it really builds up a really cool, very vibrant green tone. Just reminds me of Toxic Sludge. It's honestly exactly what I was hoping for here, and as you can see, the more layers that I lay down, the darker the green becomes. But doing some light shading in those areas kind of really made it stand out, and I'm honestly so happy with the way this came out. Now, I did have some footage somewhere of me painting the tongue and the teeth, and somehow that got lost. But with that all said and done, I am so happy with the way this thing came out. It was way bigger than I imagined in my head, and it actually wasn't that overcomplicated to really paint. I love doing things like this. I love sharing this stuff with you guys, and I hope you guys appreciate the time and the effort that goes into doing these. If you found this fun or entertaining, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to share these videos with your friends. Love you. Okay, bye.